chamber didn't go silent because of respect. It went silent because everyone heard the small, wet sound of a toy hitting polished stone. A child's little drone, some cheap, wobbling thing with a cracked prop, skittered across the Galactic Concord's floor and spun to a stop beneath the dais. The boy stood in the center ring, wrists bound in restraint filament, tears cutting clean lines through dust on his cheeks. His translator collar flickered as it tried to interpret sobbing. Across from him, the Cathari execution marshal raised a disruptor like it was paperwork. The boy's guardian, an exhausted human station right, shouted something raw and wordless as Concord guards pinned him down. High above, the floating council pods hummed with private chatter. Then Councillor Vale Sarin of the Loxery, draped in ceremonial silks and smug certainty, leaned into the broadcast lenses. "Let this be instructional," Sarin purred, voice sweet as poison. "Humanity's unruly behaviour will no longer be indulged." He didn't bother to repeat the accusation, vandalism of a sanctum marker, because it didn't matter. The verdict had been decided before the child ever entered the room. The marshal fired. There was no gore on the feed. The Concord was very proud of its decorum. The child simply stopped moving, and every human watching on hab stations, freighters, domes, and colony shacks felt something ancient sit up behind their ribs. On Earth orbit, aboard the TSS Gravitas, Captain Mara Vance stared at the live feed until the screen cut to the Concord seal, as if a logo could erase what everyone had just seen. Her jaw tightened so hard it hurt. Around her, bridge crew froze like statues that had forgotten how to breathe. Commander Rourke Hale gripped the rail, knuckles whitening. "Orders, Captain." Mara's voice came out low, almost gentle. The kind of gentle that meant a storm had already made landfall. "Send the signal." Hale hesitated, just long enough to show he understood the weight of it. "Vault clearance, full clearance, a beat." "Captain, if we do this, we don't get to pretend anymore," Mara said, eyes still locked on the dead seal. "They didn't execute a child for vandalism. They executed him to remind us we're allowed only what they permit." She turned to her comms officer, broadcast to every human hull within range. "Open channel, no encryption." The officer swallowed. Message, content. Mara looked at the Concord emblem like she wanted to crack it between her fingers. 3 words, she said. "Open the vault." Deep inside the Carpathian rock, a mountain that had been geologically stable for centuries began to move. Not like an earthquake, like a door. Camouflage stone plates slid apart with patient, engineered precision. Ancient actuators groaned for the first time in generations. Heat bled from seams that had been sealed since humanity still called itself new. In a buried corridor, lit by emergency strips, Mara Vance walked with her senior staff, boots striking concrete that had never known sunlight. No one joked. No one tried to lighten the mood. This wasn't a mission briefing. This was confession. They reached a blast door the thickness of arrogance. Mara placed her palm to the scanner. A pause, long enough to feel judged. Then a tone, a green line, a lock releasing like a held breath. The door opened, and the hangar beyond swallowed sound. Rows upon rows of warships waited in the dark, sleek, predatory silhouettes built from an alloy that didn't reflect light so much as refuse it. Their hulls carried scars of old test fires, old trials, old near mutinies of physics. Hale whispered, like saying it louder might wake them wrong. The stories were true. Mara didn't smile. "They were insurance," she said. built back when the Concord first welcomed us, when we realized welcome meant leash. A technician hit the flood controls. Light roared across the hangar, and there it was, painted in matte black on every prow. A simple human mark the Concord had tried to erase from records. A circle broken by a vertical slash. The sigil of refusal. Mara faced her officers. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the Vault Fleet. Light years away, Councillor Vale, Saren lounged in his private suite, an obscene drift palace of fabric, perfume, and gravity-defying art. He sipped a pale green liquor that could sterilize metal. An aide's face snapped onto a holoscreen. Tech, a jittery luxury attendant whose skin had gone a sick lavender. "Counselor," Tech said fast. Long-range sensors detected an unidentified fleet entering the system at extreme velocity. Saren waved one jeweled hand. "Send a patrol. It's probably a merchant alliance trying to posture." Tech's throat bobbed. "The patrol is gone. Destroyed instantly. No visual. No time to transmit." Saren sat up, irritation turning sharp. "Impossible. Concord shields." "Counselor," Tech interrupted, voice cracking. "There are hundreds of them." A star map bloomed across the room. A cluster of red signatures moved like they had somewhere to be, straight toward the Concord homeworld. Saren's mouth opened and closed once, like his pride was trying to find words and choking on them. "How," he whispered, "does an unregulated species field that many capital holes without notice?" Then Tex swallowed and added the detail that made Saren's blood go cold. "They're holes. Don't scan properly. The returns bend, like the sensors can't agree where they are." Saren's gaze snapped to the magnified tactical feed. The incoming ships weren't round or ornamental like Concord designs. They were purpose-made metal, angular, lean, built to hunt. And on every prow, that broken circle. Saren stumbled backward, the drink spilling and evaporating before it hit the floor, because gravity settings panicked and changed twice. "No," he breathed. "No, no, no." He remembered the boy's stillness. He remembered the human feed cutting to the seal. He remembered telling himself this will keep them compliant. And in that moment he understood the kind of mistake that gets carved into history with fire. On the bridge of the TSS Gravitas, Mara Vance watched the Concord's defense wall assemble. Layered battleships, orbital batteries, dense swarms of interceptor screens. A pretty fence. A fence built by people who'd never met an animal that didn't respect fences. "Open channel," Mara said. The Concord flagship answered. Vale Saren's face filled the screen, still composed, still trying to look taller than fear. "What do you want, human?" Mara leaned forward slightly. Her expression wasn't rage. It was verdict. "First," she said, "you rescind the ban on human FTL travel. Immediately. Publicly." Saren sneered because sneering was his last shield. "You're one species. You don't dictate terms to the Concord." Mara nodded once to her tactical officer. "Show him." The view split. A Concord cruiser, proud, gleaming, bristling with cannons, became a cloud of debris in a clean, surgical burst. No dramatic exchange. No prolonged duel. One shot, then silence. Saren's sneer died mid-breath. Mara's voice stayed calm. "Second," she continued, "you acknowledge human expansion rights under Concord Charter. No more containment zones. No more restricted corridors." Saren's eyes flicked to his off-screen officers, searching for reassurance, and finding only terror. And third, Mara said, you will surrender the Cathari marshal who pulled the trigger, and the Concord justiciar who signed the sentence. Saren's face twisted. Never. Mara's gaze didn't blink. Then you can explain to your people why their defense wall is about to become a memorial. She lifted one hand. Ghost protocol. Across the tactical display, the Vault fleet shimmered, not cloaking like a simple stealth field. They misbehaved, as if reality's bookkeeping couldn't keep track of them. 1 second, 100 ships. The next, none. Saren shouted something off screen. Alarms wailed. Consoles spat warnings. Targeting systems screamed contradictions. Where are they? He roared, voice cracking. Mara watched the Concord fleet spin up weapons and fire into empty space like a frightened animal biting shadows. Then the first invisible strike landed. A Concord dread carrier buckled. Its shields flared and died like a candle in wind. A second ship split in half, clean, precise, horrifyingly effortless. A third simply vanished in a bloom of light that didn't look like explosion so much as deletion. Mara's bridge remained quiet, not celebratory, focused, because humans weren't enjoying it. They were ending it. After a minute, maybe two, Mara raised her hand again. Ceasefire. The storm stopped as abruptly as it began. Wreckage drifted. The Concord's wall had become a shattered ring of humbled metal. Mara reopened the channel. Saren's face looked older now, like fear had chewed years into him. Mara spoke softly. Look at what you built, she said. All that power. All those ships. And you used them to kill a child to prove a point. Her eyes hardened. Here's the new point. She leaned in, filling his screen with the kind of calm that makes tyrants understand consequences. You will comply, or you will be remembered as the reason the Concord stopped existing. A long silence. Then, one by one, red icons on Mara's tactical display powered down weapons, drives, targeting arrays. Surrender, not negotiated. Decided. Mara didn't smile. She just stared, because she knew what came next. The Concord wouldn't forgive humiliation. They'd regroup. They'd whisper. They'd recruit allies. They'd try again. But now the galaxy had seen the truth. Humans weren't fragile. Humans were patient. And somewhere beneath Earth's mountains, patience had been waiting behind blast doors.